Bugatti want £20,000 to service my Bugatti Veyron.
For £900,000.
$400,000.
£20,000 service is 18,000 plus VAT.
$37,800.
About $25,000.
Yeah, very, very spicy.
You can have a YouTube mechanic fix a completely burned out Ferrari or bring a drowned Lamborghini back to life like it's nothing. But the second they buy a cheap Bugatti Veyron, everything changes.
Today I'm going to buy a Bugatti Veyron.
It is the biggest trap in the entire car community.
The big issue is right here. Waiting on parts, no reverse.
Here's how it always goes down. A creator finds a broken or wrecked Veyron listed for cheap. They buy it, totally convinced their mechanical skills are enough to beat Bugatti at their own game, and tell their subscribers to get ready for the coolest build series ever. Flash forward a few months, and that same creator is sitting on their shop floor looking completely defeated, holding a bill for a $40,000 set of tires. And this isn't just a one-time thing. It keeps happening. The Veyron is basically a real-life cursed object at this point.
We can't fix the box.
No. It tricks the smartest, most talented builders on YouTube into thinking they can outsmart it, only to completely crush their bank accounts, their confidence, and their sanity. So today, we are talking about the Bugatti Curse. If you want to know who started this whole curse trend, look no further than Tyler Hoover from Hoovies Garage. He leaned into the absolute chaos so hard that he literally crowned himself the poorest Bugatti owner in the world, making it a huge running joke on his channel.
I made that joke all the time. I was the world's poorest Bugatti owner, or the world's poorest free-to-sell Gullwing owner.
What makes Tyler's story so crazy is that he knew what he was getting into, and the car still destroyed him. He decided to lease a 2008 Veyron for a staggering $14,000 a month for 3 years. A few minutes into driving it, the nightmare started. Misfires popped up, the check engine light started flashing, and the car ran like total garbage the whole drive home, where he almost hit 2 deer on top of everything else.
The check engine light has come on, as you can see, which is a normal Volkswagen thing to happen, but then that light, stop check coolant, has now joined us.
That's when reality hit him. He was locked into paying 14 grand a month for 3 straight years for a hypercar that was already broken. Once he actually took it to Bugatti, the numbers got stupid real fast. The initial repair bill topped $54,000 just to fix a sensor issue, replace the fuel tank, and swap out turbochargers. That didn't even cover the normal running costs, like a $21,000 oil change or $54,000 for a new set of tires. To make matters worse, the car had already undergone a failed transmission swap after technicians misdiagnosed its shifting problem. The original transmission was eventually reinstalled, and the real problem turned out to be an electronic shifter costing around $6,000. That tells you everything you need to know about the Bugatti Curse, a problem that looks like a total disaster and gets quoted like one, just hiding behind Bugatti's insane parts prices and dealer markup. Credit to Tyler, though. He laughed through the pain and turned the whole train wreck into some of his most entertaining videos, which is honestly the only way to keep your sanity when you're 50 grand deep into a broken Bugatti. Then you have Mark McCann, a British YouTuber who picked up what might be the single most cursed Veyron on the entire platform.
Today I'm going to buy a Bugatti Veyron. Ever since the release of the Veyron back in 2005, it's been a dream of mine to own one.
Mark dropped $1.2 million on a heavily modified Mansory Veyron that was originally built for a prince in the Middle East. Sounds fancy, right? The catch was that the car had been sitting ripped apart across 2 different garages for over 3 years.
The car was at a previous garage for about 2 years. They supposedly replaced lots of parts in the gearbox.
Right out of the gate, everyone was wondering if half the parts were missing or if it would even turn on. Turns out the worries were totally justified because the entire gearbox was straight up missing. As they started putting it back together, the list of problems kept growing. The car had engine timing issues, missing hardware, ruined aluminum panels, and a trashed interior. To make things worse, parts of the car that were supposed to be real, carbon fiber, turned out to be cheap vinyl wrap that was peeling off. Mark even talked to friends of the old owner and found out the car hadn't been able to go in reverse for 5 full years. Then came the real gut punch. When they finally dealt with the gearbox situation, they found galvanic corrosion, which happens when 2 different metals react and eat away at each other. A leftover metal shaving from a drilled bolt had completely ruined the internals. And this is where Bugatti hits you with the ultimate hypercar tax. Bugatti doesn't just fix broken parts inside the gearbox. Many of the internal components aren't sold separately, So the official solution is replacing the entire gearbox. A brand new replacement alone was estimated to cost around £300,000 before any of the other restoration work was even considered.
Yeah, it'd be like £300,000-400,000 for the whole thing. But that's like software.
After already paying £900,000 for the car, Mark knew he could end up pouring hundreds of thousands more into a Veyron that might never be worth the investment. Eventually, independent gearbox specialist Pascal in the Netherlands stripped the transmission down, found metal debris clogging the tiny hydraulic oil passages, and began reverse engineering parts Bugatti wouldn't sell. Instead of replacing the entire gearbox, he rebuilt it piece by piece, giving Mark his first real hope that the car could be saved without buying a brand new transmission. And that kind of emotional roller coaster is exactly what owning a broken Bugatti Veyron is all about. While Mark was riding that emotional roller coaster, Matt Armstrong was preparing to step into the ring with his own Bugatti nightmare. Matt is probably the most interesting case in this whole trend. He built his entire channel around buying wrecked cars everyone else gave up on and fixing them for a fraction of what dealerships quote. But even Matt couldn't escape the Veyron's special kind of torment. In fact, he doubled down and took on 2 cursed Bugattis at the exact same time. While he was over in Florida rebuilding a crashed Chiron Sport, the one Bugatti's own CEO said couldn't be fixed outside the factory.
You can't do that in a garage. There's just a few places in the world with the right equipment and only a few people in the world with the right training to be able to do that.
Matt bought a repossessed Veyron out of Dubai for a steep discount.
I have just bought a Bugatti Veyron with a small issue.
The car was worth over £1.5 million in good shape, but it came with a massive known problem that had already been quoted at over $300,000 to fix. When the car arrived, it wouldn't shift into gear, so Matt did what he always does and started digging around. He realized the famous 350,000-pound gearbox issue was actually being caused by a blown fuse.
That fuse was for the hydraulic gearbox pump, and we all know fuses don't just end up like that on their own.
He drove over to a local auto parts store, bought a $3 replacement fuse, popped it in, and the fault cleared. He solved a 6-figure hypercar problem with something that costs less than a cup of coffee. Of course, the Veyron Curse doesn't let anyone off the hook that easy. Fuses don't just blow for no reason, and fixing that one issue immediately uncovered a whole cluster of new problems. The car had engine misfires, a leaking radiator, and deeper wiring issues. When Matt tried to buy genuine replacement parts, Bugatti hit him with a massive roadblock. They told him the car had to be brought into an official service center for them to sell or install components.
Okay, well that's fine, sir. So you've come through to the showroom. I need to get you through to the service center.
Basically, their way of blocking independent mechanics from working on their hypercars. Matt realized he was on his own and was going to have to make or source the parts himself, later joking that Bugatti's customer service definitely wasn't as fast as their cars. He pushed forward anyway. After months of tearing down the car, fixing the bodywork, and swapping the light blue accents for a sleek satin silver, he finally took it out to a runway to test top speed mode. It drove over 150 miles without a single issue, right up until the car randomly lost power and started shutting down on the track.
This car's just gone, isn't it?
Just like that, a fuel pump control module error dropped another huge setback on a project already plagued by wiring gremlins and cooling failures. If there's any silver lining to Matt's suffering, it's that he exposed what's actually under the skin of these hypercars. He skipped the legendary $25,000 official Bugatti service and did it himself in his garage for about $1,600. Along the way, he proved that a lot of those elusive, crazy expensive Bugatti components are just standard Volkswagen Group parts with custom part numbers. Strip away the badge and a Veyron is still made of standard bolts and Audi transmission pumps, proving that the legendary service costs are mostly just a markup on the name rather than the actual labor involved. And while Matt was busy tearing apart standard VW parts, Houston Crosta took on a project that makes all these other builds look like easy weekend maintenance. If there is one car that wins the award for the most cursed Veyron on the planet, it's the one Houston decided to rescue. This car had far more than a bad gearbox or a flashing check engine light. It had spent time submerged in Galveston Bay, with reports claiming its engine had been left running in the water. The story goes back to Texas in 2009, when the original owner drove it straight into the bay and blamed the crash on a low-flying Pelican. Bad news for him, someone in another car caught the whole thing on camera. The explanation quickly fell apart. The crash became part of a massive insurance fraud case, and the owner eventually spent 9 months in jail. The drowned Bugatti then bounced around for years as different owners and shops tried to deal with it before passing it along. Fast forward more than a decade, and Houston Crosta, the founder of Royalty Exotic Cars, bought the wreck to finally bring it back. Houston already knew his way around Bugattis, but even he underestimated the nightmare he was stepping into. At one point, he was approached about selling the entire project to Tavares and seriously considered it after realizing how brutal the rebuild would be.
At one point, I was approached by Freddie and Ed Bolian if I would sell the project to Tavares.
But after all the time and effort he had already invested, he refused to quit. The money involved quickly got out of hand. Between buying the car and the early mechanical work, around $400,000 was already sunk into it, and Houston dumped roughly another $250,000 into the restoration. Even after all that, major pieces were still missing, including the original sound system. Simple components carried total fantasy prices. New turbos ran $42,000, and some missing interior equipment was valued at up to $100,000. The cost showed up in the smallest, most frustrating places. On another Veyron repair, Houston's team faced a water pump reportedly priced at around $17,000, gaskets that were nearly impossible to source, and an air conditioning compressor buried so deep inside the car that major sections had to be removed just to reach it. Houston had also shown how extreme even a basic Veyron oil service could become. The standard procedure was quoted at 27 hours of labor and around $21,000 at a dealer, requiring the rear bumper, side panels, wheel liners, and other rear bodywork to be removed.
To the bolt to take this fender off, this bumper off, and again on the other side, okay, we've got to take all of this stuff out.
Eventually, after more than 10 years off the road, the drowned Veyron's massive W16 engine actually fired up. It was far from completely finished, but getting a saltwater-flooded hypercar packed with delicate electronics and 4 turbochargers to run again seemed impossible. Houston brought back one of the most infamous wrecks in internet history. But it took years, hundreds of thousands of dollars, endless, hard-to-find parts, and enough frustration to break almost anyone else. If that isn't the absolute peak of the Bugatti Curse, nothing is. And that brings us to the most terrifying part of this whole phenomenon. A Veyron doesn't even need to be crashed, drowned, or missing its transmission to completely wreck your wallet. Sometimes all it has to do is get old. SR Auto Group proved this with their 2008 Bugatti Veyron.
The real car that I want to show you guys is this. My 2008 Bugatti Veyron.
The car was around 15 years old when they started a major service and full refresh on it. From 10 feet away, it still looked like a flawless hypercar. Underneath, though, time had quietly done its damage to the materials, electronics, and mechanical parts. The team dropped over $30,000 on just the initial phase of maintenance. That wasn't to fix a blown motor or replace a shattered gearbox. That was simply the cost of taking things apart, replacing worn components, and refreshing parts that had aged out over 15 years. SR Auto Group eventually documented their work on a pair of Veyrons in a series called "We Saved These Bugatti Veyrons from the Brink of Extinction." Calling a running Bugatti extinct sounds dramatic, right? Until you realize the earliest Veyrons are over 20 years old now, and even the freshest ones are over a decade old. This creates a whole new category of nightmare compared to what Mark McCann or Matt Armstrong went through. A broken transmission gives you one massive boss fight. An aging Veyron hits you with dozens of smaller problems all at once. Rubber seals harden, interior trim peels, electronics throw random faults, and aging cooling hoses turn into ticking time bombs. And because it's a Bugatti, none of those issues stay cheap. Bugatti's official service guidelines say standard maintenance can take anywhere from 14 to 32 hours of master tech labor. A fresh set of tires will run you around 30,000 pounds, and if you need the wheels replaced on every third tire swap like Bugatti recommends, that single bill jumps to 52,000 pounds. That's why SR Auto Group's project is such a reality check. These weren't wrecked auction cars bought for cheap content by overconfident YouTubers. They were clean, valuable hypercars getting basic upkeep, and the costs hit 5 figures almost instantly. Bugatti engineered the Veyron to hit 250 miles per hour, but they never designed it to be an easy-to-own 20-year-old used car. As these hypercars keep aging, every owner is realizing the exact same thing. Buying a Veyron is hard, but keeping one alive for another decade is where the real pain starts. Which brings us to the funniest part of this whole curse. Sometimes, the fix to a terrifying Bugatti problem costs less than your lunch. Tyler Hoover proved this when his Veyron started throwing a flashing check engine light for an emissions leak.
Here's the $10 fix. Some purge valves from Bosch.
A genuine Bugatti part would have cost thousands. But since a ton of Bugatti parts come straight out of the Volkswagen bin, Tyler swapped in a $10 Bosch part built for an Audi, then secured it inside his W16 engine bay with a $1 plastic zip tie. Think about that. A $1 million quad-turbo hypercar kept running by the same plastic strap you use to bundle extension cords. That single zip tie pretty much sums up the Bugatti Veyron. It's the most complex hypercar of its era, but underneath the badge, it's a bunch of VW parts wearing a super expensive suit. So why is it always the Veyron breaking these creators? Why not a Ferrari, a McLaren, or a Porsche? First off, the car is a mechanical labyrinth. It has 10 radiators, 4 turbos, and a massive dual-clutch transmission handling insane torque. When rubber rots or sensors fail, fixing anything requires taking half the car apart. Second, Bugatti makes independent repairs nearly impossible. They don't sell individual gearbox parts, they sell multi-$100,000 replacement units, forcing owners into official service centers. Finally, there's the price gap. A clean Veyron goes for over $1 million, but a broken one can be picked up for a massive discount. For a YouTuber, that gap is impossible to resist. It sounds like the ultimate video series. Buy a cheap hypercar, fix it up, and make a massive profit, or keep a legend. Except that gap is an illusion. Broken Veyrons are cheap for a reason, and the previous owners dumped them precisely because they hit a financial brick wall. Yet, creators keep buying them. Why? Because the Curse is actually good for business. Rebuilding a broken hypercar makes incredible content. Every terrifying repair bill, every blown fuse, and every zip tie hack brings in millions of views. The audience loves watching a Veyron test a creator's sanity, which means the views help pay for those eye-watering repair bills. The suffering is the content. It's not magic. It's just a ridiculously complex car meeting an internet economy that rewards chaotic builds. The cars keep breaking, creators keep filming, and viewers keep watching. Which means right now, another creator is looking at a cheap Veyron, ignoring everything that happened to these creators and convincing themselves they'll be the one to beat the system. Spoiler alert, they won't, but the video series is going to be amazing. Tuna no Crust signing off.